So we're here again with Adam Big Red Sachnoff, and he's going to be talking to us about the top 5 mistakes that wrestlers do when transitioning into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Adam?
Alright, I'm here with Patrick. He's one of my students. He's going to help me out, show you guys some of the moves. Alright, so I'll start out with head placement. I feel like a lot of wrestlers don't worry about their neck enough, because you're not legally allowed to do submissions, so people will leave their head out there, right? So number one is I see a lot of wrestlers immediately when they're going in for their takedowns, going and bringing their head to the outside and then keeping their head down. And when you do this, you really leave yourself open to the guillotine. There's 2 things that you can do to correct this. One is when you're going in for your takedowns, you can just shoot right in for the middle and drive into the chest. Or if you are going to bring your head to the outside, make sure you're looking up and you're driving into them, right? As soon as you bring your head down, you're going to leave yourself open for the guillotine. All right, number 2 is the attitude and that competitive nature and stuff like that. Now, if you're a white belt and you've wrestled for a while, you go in with that attitude into a tournament, you're going to win. More than likely, it's going to help you. But for your long-term growth and for learning, it's not going to help you, right? So let's go down, right? So let's say you're going into a jiu-jitsu school and it's time to roll. It's your first day. You want to make a good impression. I feel like a lot of guys, wrestlers, they want to work what they know. Like, let's say the moves we were working today were full guard or half guard or something like that. They won't even try those moves because they just want to stay on top. They don't want to put their back on the mat. They're not comfortable there, right? So then you end up having these knee wrestling matches, and at some point, especially if I'm a wrestler, I'm gonna get you over and stuff like that, and I might do well with the other white belts, but why go to a jiu-jitsu school just to use your wrestling, right? If you do that, you're not gonna learn jiu-jitsu, right? So as a wrestler, why not start out on your butt, learn what you don't know, let the other guy work his passes, right? So he starts passing, and when you first start out, you may get passed, you may get tapped and stuff like that, but you're gonna learn, right? So don't be afraid to get tapped. Don't be afraid to go into those bad positions. You need to work all the positions that you're uncomfortable with. That's the only way you're gonna get better. Number three, how wrestlers deal with being in full guard from the bottom. I see a lot of mistakes that wrestlers will make. Now, whether you're in MMA or a grappling scene, or you just learning, just training and stuff like that, I feel like a lot of wrestlers will come down and they'll try and stack the guy. They might even lock their hands together. They might even try and go for submissions. They might even try and go for some neck cranks. And you know what? As you can tell, I'm much bigger than Patrick, and I may actually be able to tap him with this, but as soon as I go up against someone my own skill level, someone my own size, they're gonna capitalize on the fact that I'm broken down. They're gonna have an easier time sweeping me. They're gonna have an easier time going for their arm bars, their triangles and stuff like that. Another thing why wrestlers do this is because in wrestling, I've already won. I'm pinning him, right? I'm winning here. So you whether you're thinking about that or not, that might be in the back of your head that, you're used to being here and this being considered a win. This is not a win in jiu-jitsu. You need to get that out of your mind, right? So anytime the wrestler decides to break himself down, whether he's stacking or he's just down, right? Like if you're leaning into me, right? Like coming around here and stuff like that, like I can start to go in for my sweeps. Anytime you're broken down, you're coming into me, I can start walking on my shoulders, I can start going for my triangles. Here, I can start going for the arm bars. It's always better, so I'm just telling you what not to do. Survival Golden, what should I do when I'm in the full guard? The correct response is to have good posture, look up, stay upright, hands on the bicep, hands on the abdomen, hands on the armpit. If I start to come up, push me away at some point, you want to try and stand up and try some of your standing guard breaks. And there's a few other guard breaks you can do. Now, another thing that I see I've seen a few wrestlers do is from the full guard, they'll reach behind with one arm, trying to break my full guard apart, right? So you're trying to, yeah, like at my ankle, right? Like, so you're like trying to go from my ankles and trying to pry my legs apart and stuff like that. In Jiu-Jitsu, it's a golden rule. You either have both arms in or both arms out here, right? So let's go back. If you have one arm in and one arm out, go ahead. Then you just put yourself right into triangle. Number 4, the overuse of sprawling, especially from side control positions of stuff. So in Jiu-Jitsu, or in wrestling, I feel like you don't really have to worry too much about the guy wrapping your legs up and stuff like that. You know, there's no real concept of guard recovery in wrestling because as soon as your shoulder's on the mat, you're losing, you're getting pinned, right? So that's just, these aren't really positions that you want to work. So a lot of wrestlers will try and keep their weight on the guy by like keeping their legs sprawled back. Anytime you bring your legs sprawled back like this, it's going to be very easy for your opponent to hook your legs and recover some form of half guard. So he was able to recover half guard now. It's an easy fix. Just bring your knees in. Golden rule. Always keep your knee glued to his hip. When he goes to recover, when he goes to hip escape, go ahead and hip escape. Keep that knee glued to the hip and push, right? So if he moves, I move. He moves, I move. If I keep that knee glued to the hip, it's going to be very hard for him to recover. So number 5, probably the level of speed and intensity that you're drilling with. I feel like anytime you learn a new move, you got to start out real slow. So I'll see wrestlers that have good grappling experience, but they're learning a new move and they're going crazy hard learning a new move. They're making all kinds of mistakes and they're going so fast that it's hard for me to even see what those mistakes are. So if you're learning the dog fight, right? And you're going for the dog fight from Z-guard, go nice and slow when you're drilling, right? If I'm watching somebody do that and they make a mistake, I'll be able to see it very clearly because they're going slow. Not only that, but when you go slow, especially when you're starting out with new things, it just makes it that much easier to learn it and to catch when you're making mistakes on your own as well. And if you're a beginner and you're trying to go as fast as you can, even if you have previous grappling experience, if it's a different kind of grappling experience, that speed is only going to make it more difficult for you to learn appropriately, right? So if I come in here, I'm going to be making all kinds of mistakes. A lot of times, like, you won't even hook the legs and they'll come up so quick. And be like, you know, you didn't even hook the leg. Another thing is more of, you got to understand that your environment is different, especially if, you know, you're coming from a very competitive college wrestling background and you're transferring into, you know, you're making that transition into a jiu-jitsu gym. A lot of jiu-jitsu gyms have a lot of older working professionals, you know, so you got to understand you're no longer dealing with a bunch of guys that are going to, like, young 21-year-old guys that are training super hard. You might be rolling with a 40-year-old lawyer who's got a slip disc that just wants to do jiu-jitsu every once in a while. You might be rolling with some out of shape, you know, guy. You might be rolling with a 90-pound woman and stuff like that. You have to take that stuff into consideration, that these are not the same training partners, and people are, and not only that, but people aren't, it's a different kind of training atmosphere because it's not just a training atmosphere for 4 years that's going to make you as competitive as possible and possibly bring you into the Olympics. This is something that some guys will want to be doing for life, right? So the way you're going to train in a jiu-jitsu school, if you want to do jiu-jitsu for the rest of your life, is going to be at a different level of intensity than what you would be used to, like in the college mat rooms.
I think you've given us a lot to think about. Where can people, if they want to get in touch with you on social media, where can they go?
I'm on Facebook. You can go to Facebook, 10th Planet SM / 10th Planet SM. Same thing with Twitter. Go to twitter.com/10th Planet SM. You can also go to my website at 10thplanetsm.com.